Namaste and welcome to Upaayalab podcast. I'm Kamal Dhakal, PhD in physics with over 20 years of research experience in neuroscience, especially in primary visual system, and lifelong students of Eastern philosophy. In this podcast, we will deep dive into science, philosophy, and spiritualism so that we can turn our curiosity and confusion into clarity as well as to improve our overall well being. Currently, I'm working as a senior scientist in AbbVie, one of the leading pharmaceutical company. Views and opinion expressed in these channels or episode are mine. They do not represent my employer. With that disclaimer, let's start our podcast. Today is my first podcast, first episode. I'm gonna give you a brief introductions myself as well as my academic, my spiritual practices, methods. I like to be clear at the beginning. I'm agnostic. I don't like to, I'm not trying to promote any religion or respect or disrespect. I'm trying to extract the core concept, the method from in every religions, every philosophy, especially I would like to call them a philosophy from the globe, mostly around Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and implied and look at them a rational viewpoint of modern science and neuroscience and what this science tells about these methods where we can find the intersection. So as you know, like I grew up in Nepal, which is the birthplace of Buddha, as well as this is considered, like India, Nepal, they are very close culture, but Nepal is called Tapobhumi because many ancient rishis they were went to there for meditation, so they get enlightened. That's the story about there. So I grew up on such a beautiful Himalayan kingdom where I introduced to the Buddhism and Hinduism by birth because we used to have a lot of those religious festivals, rituals. They will that is the my culture where I grew up or my background. Later in my life, I pursue a science background. I enrolled in physics in 1999 2000. I enrolled into the Prithviraj College campus Pokhara for ISC. They call ISC that time. I think still this is a European style of saying ISC or high school level. So completed my ISC or BSc or you can call BS in physics and statistics in 2004. And back then, I came Kathmandu in Tribhuvan University where I completed master in physics 2007. So from 2007 to 10, I teaches into various colleges like Syangja College, one of the famous Jesuit college in the Nepal. Uh, Even Tribhuvan University as a part-time lecturer there in environment science and various other small colleges I used to teacher there. So in 2010, I applied US universities for PhD program. So I got several um, uh, admission in three different universities, and I went to a University of Rhode Island for the first year. Then some reason I didn't like it. Coming from Nepal, it was brutal cold. I didn't have many Nepalese friends there, so I moved to University of Texas at Arlington in 2011 and where I completed my further, I continued my PhD there and completed in 2015 May. So then after that, I joined to Kansas City University for 2 years postdoc in neuromuscular lab where we used to study ALS, trying to understand the molecular mechanism of this deadly disease. Since my PhD was in optogenetics, it is a very new tool in neuroscience where you transpect these light sensitive opsins like channel opsin, Aller opsin, or crimson R. These are the popular in the market, and you control their behavior. This is really after electrical stimulation. I think this is the only way to optically stimulate it, be very precise into the brain. As you know, brain is still very complex. You can study by whether the brain is chemical or mechanical or electrical or it is anatomy, just a biological organ. You never can say exactly anything about it. It is all mixed up everything. So as a physicist, as well as some idea about this ion channel, like most of my life was spent recording single channel like sodium channels, these optogenetic channels. They also these opsins are also act as a single ion channel. So I spent a lot of times on that in the that in vitro studies. And back to 2017, I got a chance in Rochester University, David William Labs, which is really famous in vision science. They use adaptive optics for the first times in human eye and showed there are distinct three colors of three cones, which we call red and blue and green nowadays. But that was long back 1800 proposed by Young's, which is a famous Young double slit. Actually, he proposed three cones there, SLM, and after 200 years later, we discovered by using that adaptive optics technology. So in that lab, I learned a lot about primary visual systems, imaging, higher resolution imaging called 241 adaptive optics. Then I joined to formerly Allergan, now called AVI, as a ophthalmology or visual neuroscience department to do further research and find out the cure for this deadly disease which we don't have yet, like as AMD and glaucoma. So far, that's it. Till now, I'm still working on that field. But beside my academic career, I was always enthusiastic to know, as a boy grown up in such a highly spiritual, like superstitious culture and society. I'm sure, like most of us, like we carry those core belief what psychology call about, and they really shape your life throughout your no matter what degree you get in. Even you still follow those culture because they are deep dive into the your psychology. However, over the time you override them, you improve your ideas, you improve your thought, enlarge your perspective based upon the scientific fact. So you remove those old superstitious belief with the scientific fact. Yet, in my life, life is just not collection of fact and data, just interpreting numbers and this bleak result. What I found is, like these what Buddhists call like compassion, love, and even Christianity, they call, a lot of call about forgiveness. This quality of life really I found outside of the lab, and that's why I started pondering upon where I'm missing it, why I'm not, so-called happy or like feeling fulfilled, even though I have everything I do in this, both in terms of Western as well as Eastern society. Actually, I'm not bragging or boasting myself, but coming from such a developing country in a very rural part of the Nepal and this in California, and getting this corporate job and living so-called American life is still, it seems very nice outside, but inside I was really not fulfilling, not feeling happiness, always trying to look something is there or someone will replace me, something always seeking outside. And at the end in 2020, well, let's say, before even going 2020, let's I start from my spiritual journey. I even my house was one of the biggest teaching for me. My dad was, he spent his whole life in India in very remote place, like doing this. Almost his life he remained silent, but he used to do job as well as do this spiritual, very hard penance meditation. But he didn't share any his knowledge. But my mother was also spiritual. She used to do a lot of these spiritual pujas in the house, as you know, everybody from this. Hindu or Buddhist culture, that they do a lot of rituals. But at that time, we didn't understand those rituals, like, uh, to be honest, like most of those ancient culture, Buddhist or Buddhists, especially in the Vajrayana and Hinduism, they do a lot of this idol worshipping, and we lost the philosophy behind them. Why we are doing that? Really not improving present life, rather going puja, offering a lot of those donation, and expecting the life after it will be happier. Well, I don't know. I can't say conclusively like whether life exists after or not. Again, there is still a lot of debate. There are some proof that some people can remember, but there is, modern science does not accept because we don't have large data set that can verify. What my I learn is, if I make you this life happier, even if there is a life after that, it will be automatically happier or better for you. And then in back to Nepal, I joined almost all these spiritual organizations you might heard of in the, especially in India and Nepal, like Burma Kumari, Art of Living, yeah, Isha Foundation, that Shambhavi Mudra. And then the much I influence is by two peoples. One is definitely a Osho. He's a, I know it sounds very controversial, but people who just judge by his appearance and some of those social media clips, you have not gone in depth. This guy really revolutionized the traditional superstitious belief. However, there is some discrepancy in his speech. You know, you can find totally different in one speech to other speech. So you can keep listening, but it's very hard to make your life enlightened purely based upon his lecture unless you don't understand why in deep rooted, unless you don't understand why he's saying so controversial things one after another. And I did 15 days Vipassana meditations in Kathmandu, Buddha Nilakantha. Actually, the Buddha Vipassana meditation, as you all know, it was been started by S.N. Goenka in Burma. He was one of the biggest diamond businessmen there. Fortunately, unfortunately, he got a migraine, but I would say fortunately, because of that migraine, he turned into the spiritualism and put all his wealth to establish this Vipassana center around the whole. More than 80 countries have now this free Vipassana center. You can learn, go there, this ancient technique. We are fortunate to have these kinds of knowledge, which is kind of distributing in a secular manner. So I spent 15 days learning this deep meditation called Vipassana, which now people call mindfulness. That mindfulness, the term is rebranded in 1990 by Joan Covard and his book Mindfulness. You might all of you people who are in this mindfulness business, perhaps you know him. Of course, he did a very good job, like bringing this technology to the Western countries, but somehow people lost the meaning why we do mindfulness. You know, if you go to the any Buddhist, and like for example Dalai Lama, you know, if you like to be a Buddhist, trying to be a Buddhist, that's you are missing the Buddhist philosophy. If you try to study or if you try to Buddhist to be a better man, that's all the Buddhism is. Buddhism is all about ending the suffering. But here people are branding, oh, you know, reduces the blood pressure, increases your, decreases your anxiety, depression. These are probably the side effect, you know, the side symptoms. Main gist in Buddhism, we'll discuss deep into this philosophy, especially Nagarjuna Mahayana, and where I discovered Chatuskoti truth, you know, fourfold truth, you know, that really shatters your belief or the concept you are holding on. However, as you know, we all discuss about this nowadays called precision medicine. Those classical era, you know, one pill fits all, like one size fits all, is somehow obsolete. Well, that's why the if you look at people all these days doing yoga, pranayam, like breathing, and this mindfulness, just to reduce their, you know, they are not trying to do these things to get the real sense why they were developed, why the Buddha developed meditation to end suffering. But here we use them to reduce your blood pressure or like your cortisol level. That sounds interesting for me. So, however, I'm not saying like they can be helpful, but what I'm saying is, listen, Buddha spent 4 years doing all these meditations, but remember, before Buddha, there are so many people came to in this world, and they all use different method. For example, like it Kabir, one of the famous mystic in 12th century in India, he just chant Ram 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 mantra. So he got enlightened. Buddha got a meditation, and if you look at the Sankaracharya, who is the founding father of Advaita Vedanta, non-dualism, he get enlightened, or people think there he's already God, but leaving aside this like his religious bias, he just got enlightened by the knowledge. All is go through hunting this scripture. So, but you know, nowadays people just think one method fits all. So what I'm trying to do in this episode also, precision well-being. You never know, because as I spend all my life looking these single cells, if I treat one cell, for example, usually in the electrophysiology, we used to treat that, what is that, sodium channel blocker, that TTX, tetrahydrochloride, right? That blocks the sodium channel in, supposed to be, but it works in one cell, it does not work other cells. Some concentration, same concentration works for one animal, does not work. Life is so different from cell to cells, and we have like I don't know 86 trillion cells we have in our body, and then you are trying to apply the same method for everyone, which does not work. That's why the precision medicine is these days. You uh, do your DNA sequencing, know your metabolism, and then get the medicine. Like the all these generic medicine. Even if you feel a headache, aspirin might work for one people and maybe detrimental for other people which have slightly different genetic mutation. Similarly, here in spiritualism, you have to tune these methods, which one best for you. Yoga, meditation, pranayam, mantra, even prayer, which is the best. I mean, people can say, oh, prayer is still from Eastern philosophy, like coming from Hinduism, but honestly, no one do prayer more than Christian. I always start prayer with this. I forget the name, but that called Serenity prayer, right? That is a Christian prayer, which is very beautiful. Oh, the God give me the power to change the things which I can, and then the serenity to accept the things I cannot, and give the wisdom to know the difference. How beautiful it is! This is based upon Judaism, and then Christianity prayer. They also helps your life. Anything that helps you connectivity. What looks actually is, well, then you might think some people sell like this way. Okay, you try this mantra, it works because that God is powerful. That culture is very. You have to be that religion, right? Either you to be Christian, Buddhist, or. But to be honest, this is just the correlation, not the causation. Like there was a very famous study, news in the Colorado. There is one of the church, I think, which is slightly a psychedelic church, but there is a blast of people there in this one of the church in Colorado. I forget the name. Everywhere church is declining, but there is growing. Like there are 4,000 members there. The reason is they feel their home there. They feel like connectedness. The reason is not the church, but the connectedness. No matter what you do, which religion, which sect, which what you follow. I mean, you can. Science is there to do your business, to do your professionalism, but still, science is not there to make you feel own, to make get connected. That's why all of our most of the major problem started when you away from the spiritual nature. When you start making big building in the city and you started all the time in the house, just looking this screen alone. So we need to go back to reset our systems, tune according to the nature, and then get connected to each other. That's the meaning of spiritualism. And how does that help? That helps. Why does that science help? Science come into the understanding now how your body, how the mechanism of anything you do works, right? And philosophy and idea, always, your brain there is as a Plato told, there is an ideal whole. That's how you try to be go there. If you don't have any ideal, if you don't try to be improved, you are there where you are. So then after, like spending a lot of times in, especially in Nepal, I came to US. During my whole this study, I spent almost 50% of my income buying a lot of those books. For example, Joe Dispenza, Eckhart Tolle, that is Toltec 4 Agreement, that the habit out of the form habit, any kinds of book, quantum mechanics, psychology, those books. And I started following Eckhart Tolle, like Wayne Dyer. These Western people give me a perspective, different angle. Beside leaving the religion aside, I am surprised that they were trying to bring those juice. They were only carrying that gist or juice, not carrying this the remaining that which is not essential, especially if you are not that from culture, right? And then why do I started even this podcast? Honestly, I dare to speak in English as a English as a second language. I never think that I'll start talking in even English because many of my previous professor they always claim my English is very not good. But in 2020, when COVID started, my life turns upside down. I don't like to go deep here it getting more complex, and I don't like to say this reason or that reason due to this multifactorial reason. I will tell you later, some maybe in some day in the life. With everything, I moved to the from a postdoc to the California, got a job, everything I have. There is nothing honestly supposed to trigger me that level of mental breakdown. But whatever it happens, it within a 2 3 months, my life goes ups and down. I suddenly, I was about to quit my job, leave my family. I flew to the. Actually, I didn't quit job. I just take a 3 day, 3 months vacation. My boss was very kind. He just gave me some of the work from job home. That's why I didn't quit it. Otherwise, I could have quit before even I go Nepal. Went back, try so many things, method here and there. I just don't say that okay, this method is right. I applied everything. Like it's if you have a fire in your house, similar. If you have a problem in your life, especially mental problem, it's a deadly mental. It is a fire. It's a you have to use all your resources. So then within a 3 month, luckily, I am glad I was in the neuroscience, the psychology field. Otherwise, I try hard myself trying to understand which method works and which not, try different things and accept even like it's a Reiki, which I never thought it will help me. I tried at that time and momentary it helped me. I still don't understand the science behind it, but if anything works, I don't go for the lab test for it, take it as granted. And very quickly, within a 5 6 months, I come back. I didn't lose anything, but it gives me a very contrast of life. Man, life is not what I was thinking. It could go very worse. That's why many people do suicide, do like very living life very very miserable condition. I know I can feel now. I win that situation. I win that path. That's why I'm saying now many people, many gurus, many babas are there, like they can simply translate the ancient this text like Bhagavad Gita or any this scripture. There's a safer saying just to motivate the mass. They have thousands of followers, nothing wrong with that. But I'm telling you honestly, what I learned and what I went through was a hell and come back to the heaven, what I now feel heaven. I really tell you this is my experience. I'll share my experience over the time, how we can improve our life, both embracing science as well as spiritualism. So since then, uh, I used to do meditation for a long time, but I started different practice. For example, breathing, what we call pranayam and mantra meditation. That helps me a lot. And over the 4 years, I developed my own method. I implement myself. I know I do it. I actually experimented on myself. It works very well, and I thought why not to share. But I can tell you that nowadays the so-called yoga and meditation without knowing the knowledge. That's why there is a very famous book, Bhagavad Gita. The Krishna, who is a god, supposed to be God in our Hindu culture, tells Arjuna there are three paths of enlightenment, or three paths of success in life: Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga. Many people of these people they focus one path. Oh, Karma Yoga is best. But if you look at this chapter wise, he put Jnana Yoga, which means Sankhya Yoga, in first, and then goes to the Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti without Gyan is really the devotion without knowledge is a blind devotion. I mean, it may works, but if unless you don't understand the mechanism why you are doing even prayer, why do you are even meditating, it doesn't help that much. It's supposed to be. But if you have theory and you do the practical, that gives the best results. So that's all my effort here is to give you that theory first. Practice you might be doing like hundreds of these mindful meditations, yoga, pranayam here and there. So many apps, so many people there. But eventually, I'll share my own method which I develop. I'm not saying I discover, but I mix. I utilize different techniques. What else quicker and faster for me. So in those days, so I spending after the COVID, I got a lot of work from home, and then we got a lot of this little bit spare time. So I spent that time understanding philosophy. I studied Western and Eastern philosophy very deeply in 4 years, and then I started making this podcast. Okay, let me share this knowledge to everyone, especially those who are gone to my way. That is still in the inside you, outside you looks very nice, but inside you is always feeling something is lacking, something is not fulfilling. you're not satisfied what your current life is, I can tell you there is a way. I mean, I cannot tell you that, okay, you do this. I'm First of all, there is nothing one single way, or nothing one thing you look outside and get it, and your life will be fulfilled. You have to go back inside yourself and reset the beliefs and change the perspective. That's it you need, but it's not easy, as you know. As I work on the vision science, we do a lot of psychophysics testing for the behavioral for different animal, and to train monkey to see the something is very challenging, but if they know it, it goes on. So to form a habit, you have to constantly do something at least 21 days, and to remove those old habits, you have to probably go more than 3 months if you apply any method. So removing old methods is very hard than establishing the new method. So in such a way, then what I like to request all of you guys, please subscribe, follow, and give the feedback. I'll read all these comments, and I'll try to improve myself so that I can fill up. If you have any question, any topic you like to discuss, let me know. Sometimes I'll ask some of those. Maybe I'm not trying to make this podcast every day of hunting for some person to talk about. I definitely have myself a lot of topics to discuss, but it looks like more monotonous. If I find some person who is really knowledgeable, which I can learn from something, or which we can discuss together, I'll bring sometimes here too as my guest. But mostly it might be many episode might be a solo episode. Hopefully you can enjoy my talks. This is purely a secular. I don't like to secular means not I'm atheist. Like I'm agnostic. I'm saying, but respecting every religion, and then bring that philosophy or their practice here and decompose, deduct it, and split into small parts how they work. What is the logic behind it? With that being said, I like to in my episode here. Thank you again for listening and tuning wherever you are listening from, either podcast platform or YouTube. I really appreciate if you like, subscribe this channel. That will help me to do more in this field. Thank you.